Start your day with It's the Business. Here's Phil Dobbie.
Well, the retail landscape is changing. There's no doubt about that. We want deliveries. Will we ever get back to the high street? Well, Sainsburys results yesterday showed there is a cost in sending stuff out. And we all know about the sharp move to online. Sainsburys saw it with groceries, but also with their Argos stores.
Online sales at Argos increased 68% and driven, I think, by click and collect services. Because as you point out, it's been much easier for people to pick up items while doing their essential grocery shops.
We'll hear from Susanna Streeter from Hargreaves Lansdowne today about those Sainsbury's results yesterday. And if people are going to get back into the shops, well, we've got to make it easy for them. And that might mean we shop more whilst using apps on our mobile phones, perhaps.
What we've seen is that the basket sizes on MishiPay are much higher than the store averages already, without us even actively pushing too many offers towards them, because they have a real view of what they're buying, right? Normally, when you have a trolley, you only know towards the end. So if you're trying to budget in your mind, you're controlling yourself. With MishiPay, when you're scanning, you know exactly what you're buying at every point in the journey.
Mustafa Kanwala is the CEO of MishiPay, a company that enables you to scan and go at many stores around the world, so no queue for the checkout. Is that part of the future? And if it is, does that mean retailers will employ less people, or will they be able to use people to actually give you help in stores, which, let's face it, in department stores has been virtually impossible for years? Part of the reason for their decline, perhaps. Of course, it wasn't always like this.
Where's Mr. Humphries? Is he free? I'm free.
Good God, there's a blast from the past. It's Thursday, the 29th of April, 2021. Good morning.
And now, it's the business, making sense of it all with Phil Dobbie.
And before we talk all things retail, let's just have a quick visit to America, where it is day 100 of the Biden presidency. And today he is going to make a speech in which he will outline his plans. Now, we already know most of those plans. In fact, we learnt a new one, a new slug of money yesterday, the American Families Plan, which is going to include free childcare for 3 to 4 year olds. He's going to extend the $300 per month child tax credit for low income households. That is all on top of the infrastructure spending plan, the recovery plan, and the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. It's all going to be funded supposedly by taxing the rich, we're told, in particular, that doubling of capital gains for anyone earning $1 million or more. So the uber rich. But will that pay for all of this? I don't think so. Or will he go ahead and just create more money and issue more government bonds, which would mean more QE from the Fed if he keeps on spending? And of course, the fact that he has to get all Democrats and Republicans on side with all of this expenditure means that, some of this may not happen. The further he pushes, then obviously the greater the pushback. And also, the more he swings from extreme right to extreme left, the more the chance that the pendulum will swing back to, God help us, Donald Trump again in 4 years' time. But look, the Fed, incidentally, the Central Bank of America, last night did nothing, said nothing new. Interest rates are going to stay where they are. They all met for a couple of days. I wonder what they do for 2 days when they come out and say at the end, yeah, we're not going to do anything. Have a game of chess, catch up, or do a bit of binge TV for a couple of days and don't tell anyone. Because, they then issue a release, which is almost exactly the same. They just change a few words from the statement they issued at the last meeting. So there we are. But everyone hangs on their every word. Which words have been removed? Which words have been added? And basically, yes, they're going to say, it's going to be a long time before interest rates go up. They're going to keep on buying up government bonds and other assets at the same rate until they see unemployment in America come down. And there's still a way to go. 8.4 million people less in jobs than before the pandemic. So there's still quite a bit to do on that. And on that, the companies that don't rely on people too much, that don't employ people, are unfortunately the companies that are doing exceedingly well. The tech sector, the Nasdaq is up 63% in a year. A year that is, supposedly a year in which we've all been in crisis. And last night, earnings results for Apple and Facebook, which punched the lights out, basically. For Apple, sales up 54%, 90 billion in share buybacks, 90 billion. So little surprise, the share price shot up almost straight away by 4% because there's nothing investors like more than a share buyback because it pushes the values of shares up because there's fewer of them around. And it can only be a bright future, can't it, for Apple? They've got the iPhone 12 coming out this year. Everyone's going to want a new phone. Now they're starting to get out and about. So their stock was up, as I say, 4% straight away. And they're making their own chips these days. So that's going to cut their costs, presumably. Or, they'll have more control over their supply chain, which is obviously becoming increasingly important, as we've learned over the last year. And Facebook smashing it for earnings and revenue. Another $26.2 billion in revenue. There was expected to be 23.7 billion, so they really did punch the lights out, even though monthly active users were slightly less than expected. So that obviously means they are making more per user. So as they pick up the number of users again, they're going to make even more money. Net income grew 94% on last year, from 4.9 billion to 9.5 billion. That's the net income. Little surprised then that their share price was up 6% immediately in after hours trade, immediately as those results came in. But neither of those companies are going to help Joe Biden, are they, with his path to job creation, except for that fairy tale trickle-down impact. I mean, here you have Facebook, a software company, dominating the online space. We know internet users spend an average of 2 hours and 22 minutes per day on social networks. Actually, that's a couple of years old, that number. It could be considerably higher now. And, of course, they are using software with no human involvement. There's, you can't call a Facebook helpline. There's no people, except for the people maintaining the servers, writing the code and selling the advertising. So less than 60,000 people work for Facebook around the world, and it made $26.2 billion annualized. That's more than $100 billion a year. And no country is ever going to compete with that, are they? Because Facebook has been created now, and it's not going to be a big job creator either, just a big aggregator of wealth for a small number of Americans. So I wonder, are we at the tipping point now? I think more and more world leaders are going to be asking, how long can this go on for? Because, for example, in the UK, there's at least 56 million Facebook users in the UK. Their results yesterday showed Facebook made $9.27 per user in the last quarter. So $36 in a year, that would be. So that would be $2 billion that they make from us in the UK. That's £1.4 billion, $2 billion. And yet in 2019, they paid less than 30 million in tax. A 19% tax rate, that with those latest numbers, they should be paying 260 million. But will they ever? I suspect not. Meanwhile, not such promising results for Sainsburys yesterday. And we're going to focus on the retail scene today. They posted their preliminary earnings results for the year to the 6th of March, and it wasn't staggeringly good, it's fair to say. The high cost of COVID has pushed them into a £261 million loss. That is quite a surprise. How much of it is transitory and how much does it reflect the changing cost of doing business? Some of which might be a little bit more permanent than perhaps we'd think. Let's talk to Susanna Streeter, Senior Investment and Markets Analyst at Hargreaves Lansdown. I mean, this was a surprise, wasn't it? Not in a good way. I mean, they were expected to turn at least a little bit of a profit.
Yes, there was expectations that they would squeeze out a profit. However, we did know that these costs were going to be significant. And it really does show that although Sainsburys really has risen to the challenge of helping feed the nation during lockdowns, the sheer costs of operating through this crisis have seriously dented its bottom line. Now, retail sales, excluding fuel, rose 7.3%. So you can see, there's more items being racked up on the tills, but underlying profits were down 39%. And the supermarket made a statutory loss of £261 million. And actually, in many ways, Sainsburys has seen its costs mount because it's gone the extra mile in trying to ensure that its stores, its warehouses, just the way it operates is safe as it possibly can be for customers and for colleagues. And so they spent £485 million on COVID-related costs. And interestingly, at a time when some other online retailers are being criticised for not paying their workers enough, Sainsburys spent £100 million on higher staff salaries and special recognition payments to staff. really to recognise their efforts during the crisis.
Now, petrol obviously will have taken a hit because we'll not be driving as much. You'd expect that's going to bounce back. So that's good news for Sainsbury's investors. But what about Argos as well? Because, of course, they bought Argos. They bought all the Argos stores into Sainsbury's supermarkets. I guess the idea there is for convenience, when you're shopping, you can also pick up one or two things at Argos. But I wonder whether that actually will have been working in the last year. I mean, people could buy stuff online, but would they buy online from Argos? You tend to think of it as being something that you go in store to do.
No, in fact, online sales at Argos increased 68% and driven, I think, by click and collect services, because as you point out, it's been much easier for people to pick up items while doing their essential grocery shops. So actually, this move from standalone Argos stores to outlets in supermarkets does appear to be paying off. However, it's come at a cost, making this transformation, closing those large stores, moving in outlets, just the sheer kind of construction costs alone in creating these kind of new mini shops within the supermarkets themselves, as well as obviously paying redundancy payments for some staff that won't be moving to newer opportunities within smaller stores. So that transformation cost is one of the reasons why it's posted this accounting loss as well. However, it very much sees that this move is really a move for the future. By repositioning Argos within Sainsbury's, it believes that it can drive higher sales going forward and reduce costs over the longer term.
Yeah, I do wonder about that, because I must admit, I always do a separate trip when I want to look through that thick laminated catalogue and fiddle with those very short pencils. I do that as a separate trip from my shopping trip. By the time I've got the shopping trip, I just want to get home and get it over with. But I can see the benefit for them.
I think you're a rare breed, Phil.
Am I?
You're a rare breed. Yeah, it's what most people are going for. A lot more people are just browsing online, not thumbing through those paper catalogues in store anymore.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Do you think they've actually learned anything through this experience? Because all of a sudden now they are all about home deliveries, aren't they? For food, which in a way that they weren't before. Now Argos, I mean, there's less people going in, more people just browsing online and doing that delivery. So, I mean, could this be beneficial in the long term? Because they will have changed their operations. They will have to be a much more effective deliverer of goods. Or are they going to have to wear more costs because of that? If we continue to expect home deliveries, then we are going to continue to see the cost of doing business for their sector is going to increase. And does that mean smaller profit margins going forwards? Well,
already Sainsbury's has streamlined its digital operations during the year. It's really paying off, with profitability of online sales growing from 8% to 17%. So this has been a clear learning experience from Sainsbury's, and it's adapted very, very quickly. So certainly the way that it's managing this huge shift, this accelerated shift to digital, has to be admired, because it's doubled online sales over the year and increased profitability.
Right. Well, and let me ask that last question the other way around then. In that case, if they're selling more online and they've picked up all these new learnings, does that mean that they are going to bounce back quickly now? I mean, they obviously think they do, because they're paying dividends.
Yes, they've proposed a final dividend of 7.4 pence per share. So this really does show that there is quiet confidence in the way that the business is turning around and transforming, because its cash generation is pretty strong. Take out those COVID costs, we've seen a doubling of online sales, and there is an expectation of a bounce back in profits by 2022 to exceed 2020 levels and exceed pre-pandemic levels. So certainly they do believe that they are really well and truly on the right track on this conveyor belt of change.
Conveyor belt of change, yeah. So is Sainsbury's weathered this better than most then?
I mean, Tesco obviously is very much storming ahead as well. It's got a very, very effective online offering, and certainly dominates the online grocery space. So certainly Sainsbury's, to some extent, is still playing catch up with the big beast that is Tesco. And as well as that, we have the discount retailers Lidl and Aldi. They didn't have such a strong year last year because they don't have such an advanced online offering. But they too are moving much more rapidly into this space. They've been launching click and collect services. So certainly it's still going to be a bit of a bum fight in the supermarket sector.
It is indeed. Great to talk, Susanna. Thanks for your time again.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Susanna Streeter
Cheers,
there
Phil.
from Hargreaves Lansdown. I do wonder whether Sainsbury's, part of the reason that they are doing so well is because they have now so many out-of-town stores. So you don't need to go into town. You don't need to go into the CBD. And that's going to be the question mark, isn't it, over the next year? How quickly will we move back to the high street rather than these out-of-town shopping centres? So there's some research out today from Australia. Retail is very different in Australia. And also, obviously, they haven't suffered anywhere near as badly with COVID-19. But even so, even there is a fear of going into the CBD. This research out from the National Australia Bank, which you might know is my other big daily gig. The National Australia Bank shows that around 6 in 10 Australians have stopped visiting their CBD or are visiting less. 1 in 5, 20%, have stopped visiting altogether. It's even higher for the over 50s. Why are they not going into the CBD? 1 in 2 said because they have no reason to do so. Now, this is very different. You can't really extrapolate that and say, well, it's going to be the same in the UK. People don't want to go into the high street because there's no reason to do so, because it is very different over there. CBDs are not where people naturally gravitate to anyway, because in the big cities, they tend to go to the suburbs where they have these big soulless Westfield shopping centres where you've got to go to because that's where all the stores are. We should be thankful, in fact, in the UK that we do have the high street, and most of them manage to retain some sort of character. But it can also be frustrating, can't it? You go to the CBD or you go to the high street, there's queues at checkouts, you're not getting the help you need in store, you're looking around thinking that there's not the stock as well. You know, you're there thinking this would be so much easier to do online, and I wonder whether we're going to go through that experience over the next few months. So maybe retail is going to need to move more quickly to a more hybrid approach. You will have heard about Amazon Go, a store where you can buy stuff without checking out. You just scan the product with the Amazon app and walk out as you would if you did it online. So Amazon, not satisfied in dominating the online space, they're trying to take over the high street as well. There's a number of cities in the US where they've got these Amazon Go stores, and there's also one in London now. So it's the next step, isn't it? From supermarkets where you scan your own goods, then pay at the express checkout, to one where you just scan and go. But will it catch on? And is it enough to get us back to the high street? Well, maybe, if councils stop charging us to park when you want to nip into town to buy something. But that's another matter. In fact, actually, that was given as one of the reasons in that Australian research, the high cost of parking. And if they got rid of that, then people would go into the CBD more. But anyway, that's another issue, isn't it? Let's look at the way people are paying for stuff. It's not just Amazon offering these checkoutless stores. MishiPay is another scan and go product. It's operating in hundreds of stores in 14 countries. Mustafa Kanwala is the CEO. He's with us now. So you've been doing this for a while. Are these mainly, though, sandwich places, the sorts of places where you just want to grab something quickly and leave?
Yes. So, hi. We started actually in 2015. So we started before Amazon made their announcement of Go. I don't know when they officially started working on Go internally. It might have been, along the same time as us or maybe even a little bit before. But they made their announcement, I think, early 2016. And then they had the first store launch in 2017 or 2018, actually.
Right. Okay.
So it was quite a bit after we started.
And what sorts of places are now using this scan and go product? So is it mainly the sandwich places, like I was saying? Are they your bread and butter?
No, not just that. Not just that. We started off actually first in fashion with what we do, and our service is slightly different, right? With Amazon Go, you're very reliant on installing heavy equipment inside the store, cameras, and very strong computing ability for them to be able to, match you with the products you're picking up and then finally calculate what you're buying. With MishiPay, we do all that using your smartphone, right? So you go into the store, you scan the product you want to buy, get the details live, like name, picture, price, and even all the promotions, so that you build your basket as you're walking around and browsing. You're building a real basket as well as the virtual one inside the app. And when you're ready, you just pay and you go. So we've transformed from, needing to wait in a line, get to the cash register, and then pay, to just scan, pay, and go. And the best part about what we do is that it doesn't require any kind of infrastructure change, hardware or software, for the retailer. But this means we can also apply it to a much broader set of retailers. We don't have to just go after, very small groceries or the sandwich shops, the way that you might see with an Amazon Go. For us, we're working across. So we have retailers in fashion and accessories. So you'll see people like Muji, the Japanese lifestyle retailer, or Flying Tiger, the accessories retailer. They're working with us. We have retailers in convenience as well as travel convenience. You have people like Paradies in the US, or we work with Dufree Group and others. We have customers also in sports like Decathlon, who's one of the largest sports goods retailers. And yes, of course, we also still think grocery is a very, very important demographic for us. Because at the end of the day, that's where most people remember waiting in a line, right? Or else they might in a fast fashion kind of category. So we do also work with grocery. It's a very important one for us, and we work with them in Spain or
I'm sure, it's great. I'm sure groceries are, well, we still need to eat, don't we? And what is frustrating me and keeping me out of the supermarkets and relying more on deliveries is the fact that it does take a long time to check out. Even though I do the whole scanning as I'm going around, I still end up having to stand in the queue, even though I just need to tap off and make the credit card payment. But, if I'm not going into the supermarket, then I'm relying on deliveries. We heard this morning how Sainsburys yesterday, with their results, are encountering greater cost. And that is going to be a problem for retail. They are going to want us to get back in store. So something's going to need to drive us. And it's not just for Sainsbury's or for grocery stores. Everybody is going to have to think about how we get people back into the high street. So, do you think we will have seen a major transition as a result of COVID-19? And is the high street going to struggle as a result of that?
Yes, I believe so 100%, because people will come back to the high street. It's just about what brands will survive the high street, right? The high street itself as a concept is going to survive. It's about which brands are going to continue, whether they be in grocery or fashion or accessories. It's about those that will be able to offer the next level of experience to the shoppers. And that means in some cases, yes, a very great brand journey and building great stores where you're going there and you're having a great experience, like the Lego stores, for example. But for everyone else, it also means taking away any friction inside the store and offering the best convenience, right? So that the shoppers come there to shop. Let them just do that, not have to wait in a line and do all the rest of the stuff that they never wanted to do in the first place. So we think that by doing that, we are adjusting the time you spend inside the store to be more attributed to browsing and shopping than it is to all the processing elements that frankly can be automated or changed now. Right.
But you're not advocating removing sales assistants. The idea, you'll still get people there to help. You're just speeding up the process when you want to leave the store. So people are using your app to do this then, aren't they? So they get the app and they can use that in various branded stores, or the stores creating their own branded app. How is that working?
So on the sales assistants bit, yes, we do think that the people inside the store are going to be very important, but perhaps not for the same jobs that they're doing inside the store.
So maybe helping customers,
much like you have in other industries. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. The role of the staff inside the store, we believe, should change much more to be customer facing or in other productive activities. When it comes to how we deliver MishiPay, we deliver it via an app as well as a web app. So you can download it on iOS or Android from the App Store or Play Store. But if you do not want to download, you can just use it straight from Safari or Chrome in your browser without the need to download. You're straight on the scanner page and you can start using it. All the stores we have use just one app, which is the MishiPay app, whether that be on the browser or that be the downloaded one. But inside the app, based on your location, we have co-branding elements for the retailers where, on certain pages, you will see their colors, their iconography, their logo, their style of receipt. So that way, when you're inside the store and using MishiPay, you feel like you're inside the retailer's journey. So, but when you go to another store, you will go to that retailer's journey. What's important for us is all of those journeys are initiated from within the same touch point, the same app, so that you don't have to keep finding new apps and downloading new apps or going and signing up by the browser on new apps. Rather than that, you have one app that allows you to shop everywhere. Much like in a Deliveroo, you still choose your restaurant. You still want to eat that Five Guys burger or order the pizza from that place. But you know that you have one touch point from where to do your order, where you know that, time of delivery is sort of a guaranteed level of quality, and all that convenience that you've trusted that brand for will be delivered for
Now,
you.
Mustafa, I've avoided asking the obvious question first. I thought I'd leave it till a few minutes into this discussion before I asked it, because I'm sure it's the same question that everyone asks. But you mentioned that, one of the brands, for example, Decathlon, where most of the people shopping there will be queuing and paying at the counter. And there'll be some people using your app, walking out, having scanned and paid using the app. The obvious question is, how do you keep track? How do you know who's paid what? How do you know someone's not just walking out the store with something, claiming they've paid for it, but they haven't?
Yes, theft is one of the first things I thought of as well, right? When I thought about MishiPay now 5.5 years ago, that was the first thing that came to my mind, right? That surely, yes, I can scan, pay, and go. And at that time, I waited 20 minutes to buy a Coke, and I thought, surely this is possible on my phone. And the first thought in my mind
it's an oasis for shoplifters, the way I'm seeing it.
However, when you think about it a little bit more, we have ways in which we prevent theft, right? Either by using RFID, if the retailer already has it, particularly useful for fashion and, some of the accessories retailers who have RFID on their items, like Decathlon. Or for those retailers who do not have that, we offer our trust engine, which is able to spot by looking at 150 different data points on the app, safe versus suspicious shoppers, and inform the staff accordingly through an exit journey where there is a verification, either by the staff or self-verification by the shopper. You also see this, in other scan and goes that have been deployed, that there is this element. But before I talk, about the fact that we use machine learning and we're crunching the numbers to see the safe versus suspicious shoppers, there's something much more fundamental to understand. It's that what kind of theft are we trying to prevent, right? The real theft inside the store is still going to stay. That is the 1% or so that the retailers account for. And these are people who are actually there to steal. This theft is going to stay, and we're not claiming that we're taking it away. Okay, but what we have seen is across hundreds of shops where MishiPay has been live for many months, in some cases longer than a year, there's been no increase in theft at any of them. And that's because we're not really tackling this theft. We're tackling the potential increase, which could come from what we call the opportunist thieves. Because the real thieves, getting caught for them is an occupational hazard. But for the opportunist ones, these are the ones who are normal buyers. They just like to sneak a little bit extra, right? They're a little cheeky where they might eat the Kit Kat in the middle of the aisles and throw the wrapper away, or not pay for the 20p Sainsburys bag at the exit. These are the kind of shoppers who we meet every day. The way that these shoppers are deterred from trying to steal more with MishiPay is because they know that there's a chance to get caught, right? We create that psychological barrier in their mind, given these exit journeys and this verification that is going on, powered by our trust engine, where the staff does get involved when we need them involved. This creates in that shopper's mind the chance that, okay, there is a chance I'd get caught. I want to save myself the embarrassment of getting caught trying to steal a can of Red Bull or a chocolate. And so they do not steal any more than they would before MishiPay versus after MishiPay, right? We've seen that across the board. The theft remains the same. We've not seen the increase. And that's all really we're aiming for. We're not right now looking to decrease the theft that the store already has.
So do you think there's marketing opportunities that come out of this? So I'm thinking, for example, a store might say, well, I mean, there's the obvious thing about giving you recommendations that, we see that you bought all this sort of stuff and this store's got this product that you might be interested in and you might not have found it yet. So let's point you in that direction. But also, maybe personal prices as well, like loyalty schemes or something. Or, we know you're a bit of a cheapskate, so you're not going to pay the full price for this. So we'll offer you some sort of discount. Do you think that sort of thing is going to catch on as well? You're already doing that sort of thing, or is that the next stage for this?
Yes. I think that we've already started doing that. We think that it's definitely an important piece of the customer journey. That how do you bring the customer back? How do you make the customer see what they can get in terms of from the store the maximum value? What we've seen is that the basket sizes on MishiPay are much higher than the store averages already, without us even actively pushing too many offers towards them, because they have a real view of what they're buying, right? Normally, when you have a trolley, you only know towards the end. So if you're trying to budget in your mind, you're controlling yourself. With MishiPay, when you're scanning, you know exactly what you're buying at every point in the journey. So you know that, okay, I can afford a little bit more, I can buy a little bit more. But also, when you scan, for example, a Coke, and it says, yes, the next Coke is 50% off, you're much more likely to see it on your phone rather than on the shelf where there's hundreds of other promotions to look at.
So do you...
Right? But here you're looking at that.
Yeah. So do you think people are doing that? They're quite surprised that and underestimating or overestimating how much something costs. Because I know when my wife goes shopping, we get to the end and she goes, oh, that's much more expensive than I thought it was going to be. You seem to be saying the opposite, that people are underestimating and going, oh, I could have spent more. I think she knows precisely. She knows precisely how much it's costing. She's just telling me that so that so I don't complain too much.
Yeah, you can't in that scenario. But in this one, we see that people are definitely buying a lot more on MishiPay. That is because of the fact that they have visibility of the promotions and because of the fact they have visibility of the total basket. That's what we've seen based on our user interviews and how much we've looked at. It could also have to do with the fact that right now we're at stores where they have typically high traffic and high repeat frequency, right? So people come back often, but also that the traffic is quite high because the products are well priced in the stores where we are live. So that's why you might be underestimating. Because, for example, in a decathlon, when you pick up a pair of shorts and you pick up a t-shirt and you pick up a few tennis balls, and if you were buying that at another store where they're branded Nike or Adidas, you might have a figure in your mind, whereas in decathlon, it's much less than that, right? So it's those kinds of things that come into factor, but it's also the ability to see the promotion. Now, what we can do, and what's on top of that, is the layer of being able to build loyalty, right? Convenience builds loyalty more than anything else. We've seen this with Amazon Prime, right? Because they get you the stuff in one day. It used to be 2 days, now it's 1 day. Right,
or even a matter of hours. Yeah, I mean,
in a matter of the same day, they've built more loyalty. They've garnered more loyalty by doing that than any other brand has ever done in history. Yeah. Right, arguably, maybe Apple has done a similar thing in different ways. But with Amazon, because of convenience, so because we're providing the convenience, we're saving you what is perhaps the most important asset you have, time. We know that we can then build a loyalty on top of MishiPay, saying, hey, Every third time you buy this item, the fourth time you get an offer. Or because we are live in so many stores, we know how to find you the best product at the best price and at the fastest time. Here you go. This store is less busy than others. There's so much data we can bring.
Yeah, in so many ways, I think about it. I already shop with an app because I use my smartphone when I'm going around a grocery store. And exactly your point, I can see how much money I've spent so far, and that does influence how much more I buy. Similarly, when I'm buying electronics goods, for example, I'm always looking online to see whether I'm getting the best price and whether I should. And then you use it to negotiate in that store, of course, as well. So we're already using apps, so this makes a great deal of sense. And I guess, if we're using that in local stores in our high street, that is better than just giving all our money in our wallet to Amazon, isn't it? So best of luck with all of this. Thanks for coming on, Mustafa. It's going to be an interesting future for retail, that's for sure.
Thank you so much, Phil. Take care.
With that, we are out of time for another day. That's It's the Business. I'll see you again next time. Thanks for listening.
It's the Business with Phil Dobbie. Listen online at its.business or wherever good podcasts